Justin, nice and honest. I think Justin's wanting one for honesty too. Okie doke. Where is it, that one? Yeah, can you say that, Ronnie? Does that change the screen? Yeah, good stuff, guys. All right, we're gonna get cracking. It's 6 minutes past 7. So thanks to yourselves that have logged in this evening. This is our 10th week. I would say on the road, but we're not on the road. We're all at home. So the 10th week as we stay at home. As I've said before, in the last 10 weeks, have gave some sort of food for thought. Again, this is going to be another one that will give some food for thought for when we do start to return, or even some of our planning for moving forward. Just the housekeeping to start with. So most of you, I think, pretty much. I don't think there's anybody new, so I'll whiz through it quite quickly. Laptop, you've all been working on your devices now, so you'll be pretty aligned to where we should be at in terms of the tech. Use the chat function down the sides. So if you've got any questions at all, right throughout, to be fair, we'll make sure we'll try not to miss any, and we'll come back to them as and when we can. Or it's convenient too. So it might be for the Q&A, it might be during the some of the content that Ronnie shares or something that Ronnie shares. So we'll pick it up as we can. Go. Just keep yourselves on mute. That helps with our recording and our playback and editing at the end. And then if you want to, we'll unmute you to ask the question, or if you want me, or I know Ben's going to drop in and out of this, so if you want me to ask Ronnie direct, we can do. Call, text, WhatsApp if you need any support, but I don't imagine, I think from pretty much now everybody's sort of off here with where we're currently at. So listen, I'll thank you for logging in tonight. It's been a red hot day. I'm sure everybody's been out. The barbecues on. Like Ben said earlier on, in the convenience store, there's convenience store. I sound like I'm American there. In his local shop, there'll be. Yeah, it's definitely a Thursday. It's a thirsty Thursday, as we probably call it up north, Ronnie. I'm not sure what's down there, but yeah, it's the same. So this evening's guest, we've had to be fair, we've been great. We've had 10 weeks of some really, really good guests, and this is no different. I'll let Ronnie introduce himself in his background, but from our point of view, again, Ronnie's an individual that has led on a lot of work in the coach education program, particularly around the UEFA B license. So I know there's some people on the call that are probably in and amongst it at this moment in time. So he's definitely one that you'd like to pick his brains on anything at all around that. He's your man. With a focus this evening probably on more the technical and tactical corner. So I referred back to in the email I sent with the link to week 3 with Sally's work around the site corner, which was really, really timely. And I know from the people on the call that they logged in, and they've certainly took some practical steps away. And I'm sure this will be no different. So that's really enough from me. We'll pause at 8 o'clock, just before 8 o'clock again for the clap. And I'm going to hand you over to Ronnie, who is going to take you through some stuff and just open up some question answers. We were having a chat before, and really informal as per usual. Any questions at all, fire them in, guys. Is that all right, Ronnie?
Yeah, that's good. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can do, mate.
I see it. Yeah, excellent, good stuff. Okay, so thanks for that introduction. I'm a county coach developer for the FA. Many of you on the webinar this evening will probably know Dave Morris. Same type of role as Dave, delivering level 1, level 2, UEFA B license courses, and coach development opportunities, predominantly within the Staffordshire area. I've started coaching when I was about 15, I'm now 39, and coach from the really young babies, the 5 and 6 year olds, right the way through to adult football. And I suppose this evening the discussion is mainly to stoke curiosity and in specifically in relation to the FA4 corner model. And although we've got slides that I've prepared, we can go off in any direction that really you want to in and around the FA4 corner model. So please contribute to the chat box. We'll get questions answered and hopefully some good discussions taking place. And as I mentioned last week when I came on just to briefly introduce myself, is that whether you are you buy into the FA4 corner model, or if you're a little bit skeptical, that certainly join into the discussion and maybe at times at the debate, because that for me is where we start to get into real true learning. And also that just because I'm on this webinar, wearing the FA logo, that it doesn't mean that really everyone should agree with what I'm going to say this evening. And what this hopefully will be about is about sort of checking and challenging what do we believe to be true at this moment in time in terms of coaching players, predominantly in respect to this the technical corner. So please contribute, check, challenge, because as I say, it's not about us dictating this is the way you should specifically coach, this is the way you should specifically play. If we look across the country, if we look across the world, there's lots of different beliefs with regards to coaching. There's lots of different beliefs with regards to the game, and they're all important to discuss. In terms of context of why I'm quite keen to talk about the FA4 corner model, comes from us as coaches and coach educators asking ourselves questions such as, what is the importance or what is the relevance of the FA4 corner model? And I suppose the reason for that question is that irrespective of whatever qualification it might be that we're delivering, or qualification that a coach may have gained, or the coach's context, that at times when we're either looking at session plans, pre or post session discussions, there's been some common trends, and some of those trends really jump out to us around that. At times in some areas we might be just touching on information and concepts at surface level, and what we really want to do is start to dig deeper into this area with regards to the four corner model, if it's coaching behaviors or coaching philosophy, and really start to check and challenge what it is that we do, why we do what we do, and really start to check and challenge, are we utilizing the FA4 corner model effectively to help players, to help us solve problems, to help challenge ourselves and the players, and also help to identify our successes. Because I think at times as a coach, it can be quite an isolated role, and also that we can become quite critical of ourselves. And within coaching at all levels, there's some really great work going on. And I think sometimes when we start to delve deeper into some of the topics we're exploring, we start to recognize the areas that we could improve our knowledge and our skill sets, but also recognize the really good work that we do and the excellent contribution that not only are we making to the game, but players as individual people. And the more we delve into coaching, the more we delve into the FA4 corner model, you can quickly realize that it can become quite complex, that there's lots of information out there, but how do we effectively join the dots? So sometimes the complexity is not necessarily due to the difficulty, it's more due to the amount of information available, and maybe at times a deficit of links between the information. And I logged on last week to the end of Ed's webinar, and this really links to some of the comments that Ed made. He made the comments with regards to not engaging in more content, kind of absorb the content that he'd spoken about and relate that to you as a coach, and to a certain degree, what I'm saying is quite similar. However, we can use the FA four corner model to start to identify what actually is it that you want to explore, and that's going to be very individual to you as a coach. So where at times we can take quite a blanket approach to coach development as individuals, as groups. Really, the question is it about us as a group of people working in coaching, if it's paid or voluntary, or is it just about us as individuals and the players that we work with? And if that's the case, then really the FA four corner model should mean different things to different people, and also the content within the four corner model, again, that can mean different things to different people. People might want to take a focus in a particular area rather than another area, and for me that's all right. That's good. It's whatever's relevant to you and your players. So when we look at the FA four corner model, it shouldn't really work in isolation, and maybe at times some people see it as an isolated process, that on a session plan we'll write some bullet points in the four corners, but let's get to the nitty-gritty of drawing our sessions, when actually really it's part of a process of using the four corners to really plan what are the intentions I want to achieve with the players that I'm working with. Then creating practices, and it might be that you create practices, it might be that you see people delivering sessions, or you get something off the internet that you think, I'd like to utilize this for my players. Well, that's fine. The challenge is about, does that practice or does that session talk to your planned intentions? Because your planned intentions is about your players. Then you're coaching behaviours, if you like, around your core coaching skills on the pitch of, does your organisation, your management, your observation skills, your communication support you in delivering the practices and the sessions to meet your planned intentions? And then reviewing about, well, how effectively did I plan? How effectively did I deliver to achieve these intentions? So if you can see from, if you look at the four corner model from that kind of lens, everything comes back to the four corner model, because it's about your players, it's about you and your players. And sometimes that can help reduce the complexity of coaching at times, and also help to ensure that we review our sessions with a quite thorough approach. And I don't mean lots and lots of writing. I mean that it's quite easy at times to reflect on a session and say, well, the players didn't do this and the players didn't do that, and they weren't quite at it today. And that's good to reflect on the players' performance, but also it's really important to reflect on our performance and how have we worked to help the players either develop in relation to the intentions, or how have managed the players in relation to the intentions. And lastly on this is that sometimes, and as I said earlier, feel free to disagree, but sometimes I feel that we can be quite quick to judge coaches and to make a decision about sessions, about that's a good session or that wasn't a good session. And my personal opinion, unless I know the intentions of the coach delivering, it's quite difficult to make a judgment on if the session is achieving what it should achieve, if the session is appropriate, because I really need to find out about what the coach is trying to achieve. And then when I start to explore, well, what is the coach trying to achieve, irrespective if I agree or disagree, I can start to take that bias away and about, well, actually, let's just look at this a little bit more neutrally around, well, is what they're delivering working towards what their intentions are designed. And as I say, chip away. If there's any questions coming in as we go through, more than happy to deviate and open this out as more of a discussion.
Ronnie,
yeah.
Ronnie, just on that then, mate. So when you're talking about the planning and the four corner process for coaches that are sort of practically working on a weekly basis, if people are using this model, do you feel there's a benefit with sharing this type of information with parents? So you're talking there about, let's say, judging a session. And I know a lot of coaches on the call that one of the big things is we're always judged by parents. They always think, "Oh, that session's not good. That session's great," and it's a quick judgment based on very little, as you just said there. Is there any value then, do you feel, in sharing this type of thing with parents?
I think so. I do. I think with parents, I think it's beneficial to share your overarching way you're going to run the team or the club. But then for the parents to know why you're doing what you're doing. And actually, as coaches, we've all got really good intentions. And parents can make judgments and not really fully understand that. Well, I'm implementing some of these things specifically for your child to help them achieve this. And it links to a little bit of a conversation I had with someone yesterday around that. We can all watch a game of football and we can all view different things. So they could be watching the game through their lens, whatever lens that is. If it's looking specifically just at their child, if it's looking at it from what they believe to be true about the game, we as coaches will be looking at the game through our lens. And the more and more we're delivering and working with players, the more and more we'll start to pick up and spot within sessions and within games. And I think it's sometimes really good to align what we're seeing with what the parents are seeing and starting to explore what it is we're trying to achieve with their players. Because when you look at the game and when you look at training sessions, there's so much that goes on. It's very hard for parents to really understand what it is that we're trying to do. I'm a full-time county coach developer for the FA. I always strive to get from the coach what actually is it that you're trying to achieve here, because unless you have that, you can make a decision about a session, you can make a judgment, but how accurate that judgment is to what the coach is trying to achieve is a totally different kettle of fish. And I've had that feedback myself at times where someone's commented about a session. I'm thinking, no, that's not really why I designed a session like that. It's not really what I was going after. I'm not saying what they're saying is wrong, because it's not. It's a perfectly good observation, but their observation is linked to what they believe we're trying to achieve. So yeah, I hope that's answered the question.
It has, and I think it's a great point, because I think the challenge I think we have, or certainly a lot of us have, is that the parents make a judgment sometimes around things like organisation, or that looks messy as just a general observation. He's got no control over these kids, when actually you might be doing a lot of work in the social corner or the site corner, which might then it mean that your practice design requires the session to be messy and quite unorganised. And I think and it's just my own opinion, but I feel that there's a lot of value in sharing that with the parents so that they understand why. Rather than just that coach is dead. So 2 sessions, one coach has got the real cones, you stand behind there, it looks really organised, really military, really professional, and the other coach has got a game-like thing going on, looks messy, quite unorganised. I think our challenge is getting that message across as to why we're doing what we're doing, not making a judgment on either, just sharing it with parents so that we're probably all better informed.
Yeah, and because you've got those times where you could be a coach where your team have took a bit of a hammer at the weekend. You've got training on a Tuesday, and the session is very heavily socially dominated, because you've had texts from players saying, "I don't know if I'm going to come back." People are deflated, and someone might go and look and go, "Oh, like, have they got across, the information that they could get across. Oh, they haven't stepped in there, they haven't stepped in here. Well, actually, my rationale is I really want to, keep these players. I really want them to enjoy themselves. Let's put a real heavy focus on this. And I'm not saying that some sessions they enjoy themselves, some sessions they don't, but you can put a heavier weighting on certain aspects that you want out of the four corners. And I suppose linking to that, I remember one time we were playing a match against an under-18s team, and it was against an American team. It was in pre-season, so it was a friendly, and we were getting convincingly beat. I think the score was something like 3-0. We were getting convincingly beat, and I told the other coaches, don't say a word to the players. Let them get on with it. They know how we play. Let them get on with it. One of the parents came round and went, "Well, why aren't you helping them?" And I went, "I'm not helping them because this for me is to see what type of players have we got. I want to see about what players are going to organise. I want to see about what players are going to dig in deep and roll the sleeves up and stick to the jobs and try and get ourselves back in. I want to know what players are going to give up really easily. But if we're heavily influencing too much on the pitch, I'm not going to find that out as much." And then there was another time when, again, it was a pre-season friendly where it was late into the second half. All the lads had been on, and I sent some in to get changed, and thought we'll just leave it now with the players that we've got on. And a player went down injured and had to come off, and it was just after so some of the lads were still walking off to the changing rooms, and then like 5 minutes had gone, and a parent had come round and said, "Ronnie, do you know that you've only got 10 players on the pitch?" And I went, "Yeah, I do, yeah." And they say, "Well, why don't you get one of the players out of the change room to get them back on?" And I was like, this is an ideal time to, one, increase the workload, the physical, the returns. It's pre-season, but also about what players are willing to do this. What players are looking and going, "Oh, we're one player down. We're not going to give as much, or it's pointless." And what players are actually going, "Right, come on, let's stick to our guns. Let's still give a good performance." So explain that to the parents. I'm not saying the parents agreed, but at least they know the rationale. So that, yeah. I think linking in with parents is important. I do.
There's some questions coming in, so I don't know if you want to just, while we're on sort of, because they're poorly around that four corner type model. Hoddy, are you there, pal?
Yeah, I'm here, mate. Yeah.
Hi, pal. Do you want to just ask Ronnie what you mentioned in the chat thing?
Yeah, it was just coming. Just touch on the four corners there, Ronnie. We were just saying about them. What I asked was, would you say we have to consider every corner, the four corners, every practice we do? I think what I mean by that is I can recall obviously doing my level 1, level 2, and at times you'll think of a practice, something like that, and I would sometimes overthink it and think it's technical practice, but I'll think, oh, but have I hit the psychological corner, or how well have I hit the physical corner, how well have I hit the social corner on these things? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's. I think that's a really good question. My own personal view is don't use the four corners just for the sake of using the four corners. Don't be writing stuff down on a session plan just for the sake of writing stuff down. I think the key is about utilising it to help your players. And I think sometimes we might make the four corner model more difficult than what it is.
Yeah.
So I know that Sally was on a few weeks ago. If I link to maybe the psychological corner, I'll know if I know that a player is maybe low in confidence, or a player is struggling with the emotional control.
Mm-hmm.
I'll know that that's not probably a short-term fix. So I might have that as a focus and a strategy for that player for a good number of weeks. So I might not have to give it too much force if it's working. I might just go, you know what, that's ticking along quite well. I'm going to focus more now on another corner. So I think sometimes we can get bogged down with, right, let's look at all four corners in a lot of detail for every session. And for me, I'm not so sure that's realistic. I think sometimes that takes us away from focusing on the players in a kind of strange kind of way.
Yeah. No, good.
Cheers, Odie.
Okay.
I think as well, and you've made a good point there, Ronnie, because I think sometimes what we do with especially if you take level 1, level 2 journals, we put a 4-corner model in the planning, and we sometimes ask people to consider, and it's probably around that relevance of why are we doing what we're doing? Is it relevant or is it not? I'm kind of going to link Alan Evans in here. Al, do you want to just unmute yourself, mate, and explain what you meant by that? Because I think you're pretty much bang on.
I just think they're all present anyway within the session, whether we know that consciously or not. So whether it's a technical focus, you're still going to get like the psychological, physical, and social returns. I don't think the model's great in terms because they all look separate, but they're not separate in my opinion. And again, you might want to get physical returns with some players from a technical session, so you might have physical things in there for them players. The same with the psych and the social. So they're kind of all interlinked for me, and they're not kind of separate, if that makes sense.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, and that's a really good point. And then you start to question, well, why are they shown on a model separately? Because I don't know, Sal might have mentioned this. I know she's quite big on it at times. Is that it's actually more maybe of a psychosocial model, and that actually they are all intertwined, and with any session and with any game, lots of these things are happening. But for me, and I don't know if this is from the origins of the 4-corner model, for me is that part of separating it allows us to try and deconstruct it, to look at it in more depth. But you can't get away from the fact that actually they are interlinked. They are. So now I totally agree that if we affect something in the technical corner, it's going to have an impact on the psych, physical and social corner. I think the separation side is to try and help people understand initially maybe level 1, level 2, what's in these corners, what might be in them. But as we're starting to get to B license, A license, and even before that, to be fair, depending on how much someone maybe explores the 4-corner model, is they're interrelated in my mind without a shadow of a doubt. So I totally agree with you.
Good stuff.
Just
go on, Ron. Carry on. No, you carry on.
I was just going to say that, the thing for me, if we don't have intentions planned, I sometimes wonder about how do we effectively meet the needs of the players. And I probably started thinking like this more when I left the FA and went to work in a college for a bit. And I thought I knew the students in the college quite well. And it was really interesting that the college made us sit down every term with the students on a one-to-one and ask a set load of questions. And I was absolutely shocked about how I didn't really know them that well. That some give this kind of presentation of themselves that they were confident and they were self-assured. But actually, when we started to delve into questions about what are you proud of in your life, what are your achievements, the change in the body language and some of the stuff that they were saying, and it really hit home to me about, well, actually, I might need to have a bit of a different focus with some of these students, not just about like the what of what we're doing, of maybe like in this example be technical, tactical. About I need to maybe work more in the psycho and social corner with them to help them along, because as I think it was Alan a minute ago, that they're interlinked. If I don't get in terms of the 4-corner model, if I don't get the aspects on the right hand side appropriate to the players, it'll affect the left hand side and vice versa. So I suppose with this, if we just start to unpick them in a bit more detail, then. So this is one of the more recent slides of maybe from level 1, level 2. Historically, we will have seen coaches either write on a session plan or when we're discussing, more like this, it's bullet points around technical coaching points. Psychological, yeah, a lot of the times you wouldn't see all this. A lot of the times it'd be decision making, Physical will be the ABCs of athleticism. Social corner, it might be friendship, teamwork, enjoyment. But actually, once we start to maybe break the four corners down a little bit, you can start to realise that actually, and this is me reflecting that there's more to this than what I actually know. So we take the example of, people quite a lot write decision making in the psychological corner, and I sort of question it, going, well, yes, I can see that because like it's like a mental process, but I make decisions based on the technical tactical corner. I make decisions on how I'm physically am at that moment in time in a game or a training session. I'll make decisions on the social corner. You'll get some children who they mainly pass to their friends. So actually, there's more to this. If we take the social corner around enjoyment, well, what does that actually mean? What does enjoyment mean to each individual player within our team? Enjoyment to me might be different to enjoyment to someone else. So it just kind of starts to give us some prompts around. There might be more within these corners than what is initially presented to us. But then, as Alan said, then we've got to then explore the interconnectedness of them as well. So if this is an example of what one of my colleagues put together, Matt Jones from Shropshire FA, and he kind of looks at the building blocks of the FA four corner model as this, that he's linked it to courses around level 1 is just starting to get coaches to explore, well, what might go in these and what actually is it that I want to work on with my players. So in here, he's put commitment and confidence. Another person might be around the emotional control of the players. So, the first possible kind of maybe 4 processes, what is it that I want to try and achieve? But then you've got the next step then about, well, not only have I got to look at, well, what do I want to achieve? How am I going to achieve it? Because we're starting to delve into a bit more detail, and we're starting then to explore on courses and in coach development situations with coaches around, there's multiple possibilities here. If you're wanting to help improve your players' concentration, there's a number of different things that we could possibly look at to explore. And that what I choose might be different to you, but actually your ideas might be something that I haven't considered. But if we only have to talk around what it is we want to do, and we don't really talk in that much detail around how, we might miss some really good ideas that each of us got. And then Matt then looks at the how. So the how then is looking at, if we stick on the side corner for example, commitment about a scoring system for making yourself available for the ball. If you look at concentration, you might say, well, I'm going to play. I'm just off the top of me, I'm just thinking, linking to what Alan was saying a minute ago. I might say, well, to help my players with concentration or to manage it, I might play 3 times 5-minute games. But if I play 3 times 5-minute games, that is then going to have an impact on the physical load. Because if I play 1 game, they lose a bit of concentration at the end. The intensity of the practice might dip quite a bit. But if it's 3 short games and we're playing some kind of maybe league system in the training practice, the intensity might go through the roof. So then I've got to decide then to help manage the physical corner around what duration of these games going to be. So linking to what Alan said is that they're definitely interlinked. Just the question is how deep do we consider the 4 corner model? And again, like this is presented in a way to kind of break it down. I'm not suggesting that session plans become war and peace. It's just about, like, in here I might put psychological, I might just put scoring system. If I write it in this type of format, you might not write it in this type of format. But when someone has that discussion with you, you go, well, actually, I've done the scoring system like this because I'm wanting to really work with that player or those groups of players around the commitment within practices. And then Matt then looks at adding another level on about, well, you've got what you want to achieve, how are you going to do it? Well, who are you going to do that with? Is it just the whole group you're struggling to get the whole group to commit to training sessions? Is it just one player in the group? Is it certain players? So it starts to then really drill down into the individuals. So to kind of support this, we created some resources, and again, these are not exhaustive. Some people might find them useful. Some people might say, you know what, they're not for me. So in terms of, we're looking here at the technical tactical corner, or the technical corner, should I say, because it's more geared to level 2. The reason why we started to look at this in a little bit more detail was that, personally, at times, I sometimes think that the term practice design gets used to catch coaches out. A coach will put a session on and someone will go, oh, you could have done this or you could have done that. And I'm like, oh, as a coach, you can't win. There's always something. And whilst there's lots of good suggestions, again, it comes back to, what does the coach want to achieve with the players? So I might be a coach who, I say, it's general passing. I want to work on general passing with the players. Well, that's fine. We'll design the practice just for general passing. But there's a difference if a coach in the mind is thinking, well, I want the players to dominate possession, to be on the ball a little bit more and be comfortable on the ball. Well, okay, they might choose to do a passing session, but a focus to retain and build. So, and that'll be fine for that coach, but that practice will look different if there's another coach that wants to focus on passing to counter-attack, or passing to progress and penetrate. And again, it's starting to give us as coaches tools to start to go, you know what, this is the justification for why I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is how the design of the practice is linked to it. So there's more of a rationale there, and it's more about being able to check and challenge you as a coach yourself. And the example I'll give is, I remember sitting there not so long ago, drawing out practices for the players I was working with. And I sat there and looked at my session and thought, right, from different coach educators' point of view and different coaches' points of view, and maybe mentors as well, what would their views be on this session? And I could be wrong in my thoughts on this, but I thought some people might be over one side with the thoughts on it, some people might be over the other sides with the thoughts on it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the reason for that is they don't know what I'm trying to achieve. And that's why I keep coming back to, what's the coach trying to achieve? So when we give feedback, or if we're reviewing our own practices, we've got more of a framework to give more of an accurate, constructive critique of the session as such. And then with this, principles of play, for me, they support in possession, out of possession, the really key building blocks. And again, having them on the slide starts to help us really start to delve in about, well, how effectively can we use principles of play? So I suppose the questions I'd throw out are, when we talk about principles of play, do we really explore as coaches, individuals, do we ask ourselves the questions of, what's the importance of principles of play when I'm helping players to develop the technical ability? What's the importance of principles of play in skills development? What's the importance of principles of play in game-related practices? What's the importance of principles of play for strategies and tactics? Because there's different levels of maybe answers within those questions. And I think it's something that's really interesting to explore. And again, I don't think it's a case of that there's one answer to it all. We might have slightly different takes. And I think a really good example would be that if we look at coaching books, if we look at course materials going back from the 60s to now, a lot of it will talk about principles of play, but the terminology might be different. Some of the actual principles might be different. So you know, it's about what is your views on this. then I'll just quickly, because I know we want to focus a lot on the technical tactical corner. Same for the psychological corner about, well, when I'm working the psychological corner, what is it that I want to focus on with my players? And then actually I suppose what we're trying to say sometimes is, what is the root cause? I've been there as a coach where sometimes I'm going around in circles saying, well, the player doesn't concentrate that well and I'm struggling to manage you. What is the solution? Well, when we look here, well, there's attention span, there's attentional focus, and there's filtering out information. And in here, under the headings in blue, we've just given some examples of what might be some ideas to maybe help out. And again, the same in the physical corner, the same in the social corner, just starting to look at what it is that we do and recognise what else could we take on, but also the good work that we do. So an example I went to watch a coach who was delivering some parallel practices. It was like a ladder system, 1v1. They move up and down the ladder system, and one group drew, and he got the kids to play rock, paper, scissors. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. And straight away, especially with doing work like this, I'm thinking, I wonder why he's done that. I'm thinking, I wonder why he's done that. And I've got my own ideas about, the benefits of this. And then I asked the coach at the end of the session, I said, really interested in your rock, paper, scissors. I thought it was really good. But like, what was your intentions? Why did you do it? And the coach said, I just seen another coach do it and I thought it was fun. I was like, right, okay, that's fine. But also, just consider that, it is fun, but also that's a really good tool to maybe deal with conflict resolution. And it can be managed quite well to utilise that. So you've got a really good tool there that coach could do more with than what the coach really recognised. So there's an opportunity to catch the coach really doing something really well. So as I say, some people might find this type of stuff useful. The thing that we've started saying on our level 2 courses, we've started sharing this work. But what we started saying is, it's not about knowing all this stuff inside out. It's not even really about taking all this on board. What it is utilising this to help solve your problems and challenges. So if I'm a coach and I'm saying, you know what, I'm really unsure about how to help the players, stop being greedy with the ball. I want them to recognise the importance of team, or I'm struggling with maybe the behaviour of players. Well, for us to be able to go, well, you know what, have a look at the social and psychological corner, see where you think it fits, and then just focus on that one circle. So if it's well behaved, just focus on that circle. What might it be in there? And I've chatted with people about it. Not about we've got a plan for all this and we've got to take all this on board. That's not what it's about. The first port of call for me, what's your challenges, what's your problems, utilise this document as a reference point and to stimulate curiosity.
I think as well, Ronnie, I think that's a really good point you're making there, and certainly taken from Ed's session last week for those that were on it, that just because it's down on that piece of paper doesn't necessarily mean it's the answer. And I think that, so if I took the first, just looking at it, enjoying football, within the context of everybody working here, enjoyment and how you get, so I see it quite a lot, penalties at the end, and I always question, so a bit like yourself there when you're asking why, I always question why we should be the best penalty takers in this country. I always question why do we finish a lot with penalties, but actually, and it might be because we've always done it, but looking at that point there, enjoying football, that might be their playtime. Just that penalty shootout at the end, and I think that's a really good point you make, is that it's the why. So why are we doing it? And there'll be a reason. And I think for those listening on here, it's not to take that as that, by the way, is a really good document to give people ideas, but I'm sure people can add to it as well, and I'm sure Ronnie would encourage people to add to it as well.
This is definitely not exhaustive. All it is just some kind of reference point to stimulate discussion, really. But I'm really conscious that people don't look at it and go, oh, there's a lot there. It's about what's your problems and challenges, then just go to whatever's most important to you. And it links to the question earlier about, all 4 corners. What is it that you really want to focus on? And yet there'll be returns in other corners and trade-offs. Just recognise them. But what's going to help you develop your players and manage your players? That's the most important thing for me. And sometimes these kind of documents just allow you to look at, so that example of during football. I've turned up to some sessions where it might be really heavily technical dominated the session, and the coach is going, I don't know why I'm struggling with the player's behaviour. And I go, just have a look at this enjoying football. This play time, practice time, might that have anything to do with it? And sometimes it might, and sometimes it might not. But yeah, it's just a reference point, really. So then if we look at this as a plan, I'm not saying war and peace. This has probably got more on it than maybe a typical session plan, maybe in the tactical area, because I use it as a coach education tool, and I wanted to share quite a few key factors. But again, if you're working with a group of 7-year-olds and you're working on defending, you might just say close down, slow down, wait for the showdown, and it might not be really heavy for this information, but it's just to show that actually, we're not saying right war and peace. You'll see some corners have got more things in than others. Some corners might be quite light, some corners quite heavy on information. It might be that all the corners are quite light. Utilize it how you feel best, but I suppose the thing that we're asking coaches to do is not just think of the headlines, consider about what goes beneath it, and then plan your session in relation to it. Again, I've probably put a little bit more on there because it was a coach education session and I want people to take quite a lot away. But the message, what I'm saying is, plan your intentions, create your practices to support your intentions. So if we look quite specific at like the technical tactical corner, so for me, I kind of asked the question about what are the layers of the game? Have I got, as a coach, clarity of what I believe to be true about the layers of the game? And then what's my understanding of those layers? So for me, I look at it from a point of view of that we've got techniques and skills, we've got principles of play, we've got tactics, and we've got strategy, or strategies, should I say. So what actually are these? How do these interlink? What's the most appropriate focus for me at any given time with the group of players that I'm working with? And in my personal opinion, I believe that techniques and skills underpin tactics and strategies, and principles of play underpin tactics and strategies. So the technical ability of the players and their understanding and application of principles of play impact on tactics. If they're struggling with the techniques and skills, if they're struggling with the understanding of principles of play, it's going to impact on how well they implement tactics and strategies without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. But again, as I said earlier, that I want this to be more about stoking curiosity rather than taking what I am saying to be gospel truth as such. This is me just sharing about these are some of my thoughts and the processes and what I believe to be true. Feel free to disagree. But as a coach, how do these interlink, and how do I as a coach really try and help my players develop in relation to these? So if we take our UEFA B license, for example, we've tried to link some of the work to the England DNA, and this is a little bit on the first slide. It had the word at the top saying ambiguity. If we look online and sometimes in discussions that we have with each other, there's that much information. Like, where do you sit on it? That's the question that I'd have for people. Where does all this link in? Where does it all fit? And I'm not saying that it's all not relevant. That there's lots of really relevant points in all this, but for me to really utilize it to help my players, I need to start to make sense of it. What do I believe to be true? How do I believe I could implement some of this? What am I going to implement? And what am I going to say, you know what, that's not for us. What do I believe in? What do I not believe in at this moment in time? Because there'll be stuff in the past that I've been exposed to, and at the time I've gone, nah, that's not for me. And maybe at times too hastily. But now some of it might be real core fundamentals to me coaching. I'm like, wow, that's quite interesting. That. So what do we believe to be true? Do we believe that there's principles of play in the game? I personally do. Do we believe that these are the principles of play? Or do you believe that principles of play are something different? And I know some people will say, there's some principles that I've seen that are way different to some of these. And sometimes I question, are they principles of play of the game generally, or are they the principles of how you play? And I suppose that's an interesting conversation to have. Then some people have shown principles of play that are slightly different to these, but you can see how maybe they might link. But actually, it might not be as many, and they might have a slightly different take on it. And it for me, it's a really interesting discussion, and I'm really keen for us as coaches to not be really defensive and say, oh no, this is it. That actually to be a bit more inquisitive and go, why do you believe that to be true? And we might actually go away from the conversation where we don't agree with each other, but we respectfully have that conversation. Technical coaching points. What do you believe to be the most important technical coaching points, technical components of the game? Me personally, I think receiving skills are massive. Because if we're talking about staying on the ball and mastering the ball, well, if I'm struggling to receive it, I'm going to struggle to stay on it. If I'm struggling to receive it, I'm going to struggle to pass, to finish, to run with the ball, to dribble with the ball. I see, receiving skills is huge. But when we look at some of these statements, they're really good, positive statements to really start to identify about what you believe to be true about coaching the game. But then I suppose some of the work we're doing on the 4-corner model is about, what does this actually mean? What does staying on the ball mean? And then let's delve a bit deeper. What does staying on the ball mean to a coach who is working with a really young team? What's it mean to a coach who's working with adults? What's it mean to someone who's just done a level 1 compared to maybe someone who's done a level 2 or on the UEFA B license? What does staying on the ball actually mean? And what's the detail behind that? On the B license, we've linked strategy very much to the in and out of possession phases around. So let me give an example. So we say a strategy of playing out from the back. Well, the key overarching theme of playing out from the back. Well, the strategy to achieve that is playing out the back. It might be to retain and build. That'll look different if I was going to play out from the back to counter attack. So we can use these to make subtle adaptations to our practices. But again, I really want to emphasize the point of is that's how we've linked it on our UEFA B license. But that might not be the terminology that you use in your teams. I suppose for me, it's more around the process of, well, have you got a strategy? Have you got tactics to support that strategy? And you might have a slightly different take on it to me. Well, that's fine, but it's a process of having some detail under your strategy to paint some pictures to help support your strategy, and how do your principles of play and your techniques support that.
Ronnie, I'm just going to jump in there, mate, because I've got carried away a little bit there. It's 59 minutes past, so and I've missed the clap once on this. I don't want to miss it again. I got told off last time. So, guys, if we just leave that there in terms of we'll come back to that. Do people just want to jump out for the clap, the NHS clap, and then jump back in a couple of minutes, the usual crack? If you just drop back in the chat box when you're back, and we will go from there. Cheers, Ronnie.
Cool.
I'll leave it on and we'll just leave it running and record.
Cool. Sound.
back. You there, Ronnie?
Yeah.
You're back, mate. Yeah, I think there's a few people putting back. Give it 30 more seconds if you want, and then we can get cracking. Guys, just I know some people have. Just make sure that good. I think it depends which street you live on and what type of music you're playing. If it's pots and pans job, or is it just out straight out the door and clapping? What's it like round by you?
A bit of pots and pans going on round by ours, yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Cool. So
go on. Cracking.
So I'm quite conscious that once I get going, I can talk about it. So I'm quite conscious that if there's any questions, just shout out. I suppose just summing up this is that there's a lot of information out there. How do you make sense of the information? What information at this moment in time do you want to make sense of? For me, it's not about knowing the intricacies of every aspect of the game. It's about having processes to be able to find out some of the information and work with your players appropriately to support them in relation to what their needs and wants are. To be fair, so I suppose when we're looking at strategy and tactics on B license, we look for strategy in terms of what, where, when, how, who, and why. And then the tactics is a similar type of process of who, what, where, when, how, and why. So as I've mentioned, that the likes of strategies might be around playing off from the back, we're going to either counter attack, or playing off from the back, we're going to retain and build. So you've got kind of what it is, where you've got a little bit of the little bit of the how. So it's like an overview of what your tactical picture is going to be without the detail as such. So, and again, this isn't like universal. This isn't, it must be this way. This is an approach that we've took on the B license because visually we feel it's quite useful, but also it's used by some of the national team coaches. If you're on the FA YouTube channel, you'll see it at times on there around tactical pitches. We're going to play round, we're going to play over, we're going to play through, we're going to play beyond. And I think for players and coaches, I think it's a really good visual way of conveying how you might want to implement a particular strategy. So
Ronnie, just on all this then. So, because I know one of the people are sat there thinking, right, well, how does this relate to me and my team? So, if I'm working with some foundation phase age players, and then we'll work up the spectrum. So, I suppose that the question that we kind of always get is, look, are tactics and strategies relevant for my foundation phase players, or are we more bothered about refining technique and skill? What's your thoughts on where? Because I have my own thoughts on where it sits. But what's your own thoughts on where this sits if you were looking at a spectrum of players?
I think traditionally the way at times we've implemented coach development, I think so. The example of B is that traditionally people would say, well, a UEFA B is about tactics and it's not appropriate for younger players. And I at a time probably subscribed to that. Over time, my view has slightly changed, and it's changed for this reason that if we're saying UEFA B is about strategy and tactics, the kids will play the game of football on Saturday and Sunday, which will have strategies and tactics in. So is it that the kids aren't able to deal with strategies and tactics, or is it that we have been encouraging people to use certain practices to get strategies and tactics out when actually really you can use a multiple of practices? So I suppose the example I'll give you is that with really young kids, we can still talk to the kids about when we win the ball, let's try and score within 7 seconds. That's linked to strategy. So I kind of look and go on a really basic level, we can explore strategy. I sometimes feel as if maybe we complicate it too much. I don't know, there's some educationalists around the world that would say the most complex topics can be taught at a basic level to children. You only have to look at science. At a really basic level, they'll learn about going in the garden and growing plants. Well, actually, at a higher level, that's a complex process. But with kids, we make it really simple, but it's still science as such. I kind of feel it's the same process for the game of football. I don't believe that football is more complicated than science. So we can teach science to young kids. I think we can teach strategies and tactics. It's just, what does strategy and tactics mean to us, and how do we go about it? So as I say, I've with the young kids played games around, let's try and win the ball in the attacking half. Once we win the ball, let's try and score within 7 seconds. In my mind, I'm working on strategy with the kids. If we look at tactics, well, with the really young kids, I wouldn't work on kind of group tactics as such. I'd work on individual tactics in a real fun game type of way. So it might be about, like, how can you trick the person that you're playing against before you get the ball? It might be about, like, playing some game to outsmart your opponent. So I've got a 4-year-old. We were in the garden today playing tag. She loves playing catch me as you can, she calls it. And then she was trying to trick me. And I was like, oh, right, that's quite interesting. On a really basic level, she's thinking about tactics. She's thinking about how can she get to the safe zone. I'm like, oh, okay, let's explore this. She's got no idea she's doing it. No conscious thoughts whilst I'm working on strategy and tactics. But through a game that she actually devised, we are actually using strategies and tactics. We're just not saying to the players, it's strategy and tactics and it must look like this. And actually what we're doing is we're just going, let's just explore some stuff. Let's explore some games. So I think you can. I just don't think you can the way traditionally we've looked at strategies and tactics. And I think initially with players, we should work on, in my personal opinion, just individual stuff.
No, good. And I think that it's nice to hear it, because I think that, like you say, traditionally we've always looked at, well, we'll do technique and scalers because they're only young players, and then we'll start to what we perceive to be tactics and strategies. So I suppose the people, and it's more for people listening on the call, is to start sort of maybe reflecting on your practice and thinking, well, actually there's a lot of tactics and strategies in. So Ben Qualto's just put in there that Wembley, manhunt, stuck in the mud, whatever we call it. Kabaddi I use quite a lot. Whatever we call it, there's an awful lot of tactics and strategies in there, and I think sometimes we get bogged down with they're only really young, so we're going to look at technique and skill, and we're going to learn to pass a ball. Well, there's probably a lot of strategy around how we pass a ball and how that ball gets to that defender or attacker. So no, it was just it was a thought around are we sat there thinking actually this doesn't apply to me? Or are we sat there thinking, actually, there's some real relevance. I've only got under sevens, but there's some real relevance in this for my under sevens to solve the problems that we have within the game. Yeah,
well, kind of. I had a similar question on a level 2 course, and we got one coach to bring their players in, and they were under 8s, and I delivered a session with the under 8s, and one thing I'd say is that it wasn't this all singing and dancing session. It's not going to be with under 8s. But we put them into some games, and it was around winning the ball back. And I got tactics board out and said to the kids, right, okay, we're on the pitch. You think we should win the ball back? And they went, we'll just go and get it. I was like, okay, let's go and play a game and we'll go and get it. So we played a 7-minute game, and they're playing and there's lots of running around and stuff. I said, right, okay, if it said that everyone's got to be in one half except one player, how might we do that? And like, okay, we could leave that player there and that player there. Okay, give me a shape that you could play. What shapes you know from school? And you're like, a diamond. Let's play a diamond. I'm like, right, okay, let's play a diamond. And all of a sudden, they're talking about strategy, but all they're thinking about is, how are we going to win this game? And they bought into it really, really well. But I'm not really going heavy on strategy and tactics and stuff like this. All I'm doing is I'm saying, let's play a fun game. Oh, let's play about with the game a little bit. What happens here? What happens there? And the beauty about it is that the kids came out with stuff, and I'm thinking, I don't think this is going to work. Don't think this is going to work. And the coach is looking, waiting for me to go, right, okay, don't do that. I didn't. I went, right, go on then. Let's go and have a go with it. And then we brought them back in after they played another 7 minutes, and I went, how'd that go? And they went, it's not working. I'm like, okay, let's have a look at it. And we just played about with stuff, and I think with the really young kids, it's just about enjoying football, building the self-esteem, building the confidence, and learning to enjoy playing football. Oh, hello.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah. I think as well on that, Ronnie, it brings you back nicely into where you were talking earlier about having this relevance to the players. We probably get a lot of returns that we don't normally understand or see, just through different practices that we do. So ultimately, and I think you're right. I think we're very harsh on ourselves at times. I know I've been in both coach development and coach education settings from a learner and a tutor point of view, and sometimes we're really, really quick to judge. And judge that without sort of trying to understand, as you've said there, actually what is going on. And yeah, it might not be working as we've intended to plan it to, but actually let's see what returns we're currently now getting, rather than just scrapping something and moving on because it's not hitting what we want.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the relevance part is about us asking ourselves the question about what is the relevance, and there could be two coaches and one sees a relevance in a certain aspect, and the one goes, no, that's not appropriate for those players. And it is a judgment call at the end of the day about what you believe to be true. But I suppose it comes back to the four corners again. So if we take the example of pressing as a strategy or getting pressure on the ball. So say we say high press, mid press, low press. With the really young kids, me personally, I'm not going to work on them with like a low press, because they're really excitable. They've got lots of energy. The emotional control might not be what an adult is, and I want that positive, enthusiastic defending. I know that they're going to chase the ball, so I'm not going to say, right, let's sit here and do a low block, because I'll be banging my head against a brick wall. So I suppose in that respect, like looking at it, what is the appropriateness of it? Do I need to really start to link counter-attacking or retaining building on, or do I say, well, actually with the players, it's just about passing, or it's just about defending 1v1. I'm not going to call it press for now. I'm not going to call it emergency defender. I'm not going to call it delay dictate. I just want them to be really enthusiastic about going and winning the ball. And my key coaching points is I always say with the little kids about close down, slow down, wait for the showdown. And like I use either like a sword fighting stance or a surfboard stance. And that's my key factors of close the ball down as it travels, apply the brakes, be patient. And it doesn't have to be any more than that. So yeah, a lot of it is about what you believe to be true. But I suppose a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is, well, sometimes there can be lots of sweeping statements. I'm just asking us to question things in a lot more detail, and that's not just of ourselves. It's also about, if you came to see me delivering a coaching session, don't just say, so say if you liked it, don't just say, oh yeah, that was a good session. It's about actually looking and going, what were the returns for that? Delve a little bit deeper into it. I wonder what he was working on there. I wonder why he did what he did. Not just say it was a good session or not, because again, going back to earlier, if you don't know my planned intentions, it's really hard to judge if it's a good session or not, really. Yeah, so that was kind of, I left it as that in terms of formal slides, but I'm quite conscious that, one, that there might be questions on what I've presented, but also that it's not exhaustive. So you've got the likes of, I'm trying to think what people might, it's quite varied coaching and the technical tactical corner. We've talked about maybe the layers of the game, but I don't know, it might be about managing difference. It might be about, I don't know, in the chat box, if people want to put some questions about the challenges and the problems that you've got with your players, and let's have a chat about it.
Yeah, good stuff. I think definitely a good point Alan said there about surfboard or skateboard, and people have, I think that's something we've covered over the weeks, is people have their own terminology to these types of things, and if we talk about relevance and making it relevant to your players, something that is said in the northeast will be completely different to something that's in the southwest, but ultimately it'll probably mean the same thing, and that's where your I suppose your personality and your the way in which you interact and chat with the kids is so relevant. So I have a thing at the minute is to try and get to know what the current kids are dealing with. So Fortnite absolutely blows my mind, but I know there'll be a lot of people out there coaching kids with Fortnite, and I think I mentioned it in Jack's session that we've done around. We have this era of kids that are coming through a gaming world. I mean, I'll be honest with you. So my 4-year-old, I've said it before, he works the iPad better than I do. And I'm shameful to say it, so you would think, oh, he should be outside all the time, but you know yourselves, an iPad is an absolute godsend. I don't know what we used to do. So he does, and they're growing in this world of games, and it's a real interest of mine, and how we then translate that to the kids, if they're the types of people that are coming through. I know what your thoughts are on it, Ronnie, around how we relate. So tactics and strategy is a big one around it. Within a gaming world, and how we connect that world with our potential coaching. So it's the same principle Alan's mentioned there around surfboard, skateboard, because the kids relate to it. I think the kids are now coming through relating to lots of different things to what we did, and it's how we connect the two together, I suppose, Ronnie.
Yeah, definitely. And I sometimes think some of the best sessions are where the parents pick the kids up and they go, well, what did you do football today? And they go, oh no, we played Batman, and we played Tom and Jerry, or I'm showing my age now, aren't I? Paw
You're
Patrol,
definitely out of touch. Tom and Jerry is definitely not one now, mate.
Yeah, like Paw Patrol and
yeah.
stuff like that, and this is all, I keep saying about planned intentions. I watched one coach work with a group of under sevens, and some people might watch the session and gone, oh, he hasn't intervened a lot there. I'm looking and going, what effect is this session having on the players? And then does the coach understand what effect the session's having on the players? Because it was excellent for a group of kids. The kids, they had a blast. They had lots of fun. But there was loads. if you put this slide up and started ticking what he was hitting with these, there was quite a bit, to be fair. There was quite a bit. I suppose while we're just waiting for some questions, that some of this as well is about questioning why do you do what you do. So an example would be, I've used playing out from the back. Over the recent years, a lot of people have said, "Oh, my team, we play out from the back," and I'm a bit like, why? And I question about, are we influenced by the media? Are we influenced by what we see on Match of the Day? The likes of Barcelona, Man City. If you can go and play forward, why would you not play forward? And it links to the principles of play. And I'm not saying just hoof the ball long, but what I'm saying is about in terms of retaining and building, there'll be a reason why teams do that. In terms of counter-attacking, there'll be a reason why teams do that. So what is your reason? What's the purpose for it? If we take counter-attacking, if I'm working with a team, so a team that I want to explore counter-attacking, what do I know about it? Is it about just getting the ball from winning to the opposition goal as quick as possible? Or is there different ways to counter-attack? I'd probably suggest that there's at least 4 different ways to counter-attack. We could press high, win the ball and get a shot on goal. We could have an individual player that we kind of focus on to get the ball to that player and they dribble up and score. It could be around that, a bit like some teams, a bit of combination play, so we win it in our own half or our defensive third, and it's quick short passing to go and score a goal. Or it could be that it's a big ball up into a striker. But it's about justifying why you do what you do. I know we have this discussion sometimes on B license around, if you're at a semi-professional club or a professional club, you need 3 points or you're going to get the sack. Play to your strengths. If you've got Didier Drogba up front and you can bounce the ball into him and play off him, why would you not do it? So that question of why do you do what?
I suppose that was going to be sort of a question, because I can, from the people that are on, obviously we've got some people that are working at sort of your step 7, step 6 clubs, coaching adults, where, let's be honest, as soon as we're getting to sort of the sort of step, the National League system of clubs, that the people are looking to just get 3 points. Now it's lovely that we could ideally, in an ideal world, say, well, we play some great playing out from the back, we keep the ball well, we play through midfield, up top we've connected 30 times before we score. But in reality, that doesn't tend to happen, unless you're Liverpool or Man City at this moment in time. So I think the sort of the drive is, well, why do we do what we do? Do we do it, and where do we sit then with players? So we've got players in our under 7s, under 8s. You might have a really good team, but you also might have a team that really, really struggles when the ball's in and around their area. So do we want to keep giving the ball to those people in that area? And I haven't got an opinion. It's just where people sit. What are we asking people to do? Or are we asking people to actually consider who they've got in front of them and what's their best strategies as and when?
Yeah. And even like the example there of Man City and Liverpool, people talk about it's like attractive football. I'm biased. I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I'll always say, we play really well. What would we do? They play a fair few long balls. It's not always short. Sometimes they're playing off from the back is long. When we had Pepe Reina, it was at times as well. So I suppose what I'm saying is about what's the most appropriate strategy and tactic for the situation, helping the players understand that. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a perception thing, like you say there when you mentioned media. The perception is that Liverpool and Man City play really short balls all the time, but actually I think it was the mentor session, and Nick's on the call, so he might be able to correct me and come off mute. But Nick, I think Liverpool were up there, were they, with the long balls? Was that one of the questions that you had, Nick Wharton, if you're still there, mate?
Yeah, I'm still here, mate. Yeah, the actual lie 5th in the Prem, in terms of the stats I've tried to source it as 2 or 3 different. Tried to source 2 or 3 different references on the stats, and it's something that I've noticed about them, Ronnie, as well. That when there's a chance to be direct and turn the opposition, try and play him behind to Firmino, don't they, quite quickly at times. And I totally agree with where you're coming from. Why have 20 passes around the back well, the defending third of the pitch when you can do it in a one? You know.
And the knock-on effect then is that, are your players technically able to one, deliver that ball, that long ball, and also to receive it as well? And that goes back to a varied coaching program. And something that sprung into my mind recently is about how often do we actually see coaches deliver long passing? And I probably see it less now than what I ever have done.
Yeah, so I've had the same conversation with another coach, Ronnie. Sorry for butting in, but it's quite passionate about some of that side of the technical corner. Like, you know, it's some. I think some parts of it have overlooked a little bit, aren't they?
I personally think so, and sometimes what you're doing is that today's priorities, you're creating tomorrow's gaps. So I think it's just looking at that balance of our coaching curriculum, really.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for tonight.
Nick, just while you're still on, because you mentioned something there we were talking about, and Ronnie's talked it's been quite a thread, Ronnie, throughout the intended outcomes around understanding what you do. Will you just share with the guys what you do at the ACC in terms of, and you'll probably tell my big thing, or one of my sort of key areas is around how we connect parents with this learning, and I think that the ones that they can break careers in the car on the way home, or they can actually reinforce some really good stuff and make careers. So how do you connect them intended outcomes with the parents?
Just so very quickly, we're a player development centre, not an academy, so we don't have a massive games programme. What I try to do is share the learning outcomes of every session with the parents. Give them try and give them a source where the parent could connect to it, like a clip off YouTube, etc. This is what we've been working on. And can you support your daughter at the weekend when they're playing in their grassroots game, if that makes sense? When we do come to match day for us, the objectives for training are shared after training. So hopefully that journey away, James, isn't as potentially treacherous as what it could be. But match day, they're shared. I asked the coaches for the learning objectives before the game, and I share the learning objectives with the individual age groups before the game. So the parents hopefully get an understanding of what the coach is going to ask of the players when they get to match day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Nick, is that in all four corners, or is that just specifically? It could be random, could be anything on that.
No, it's not just technical corner. It'll be around the block of work that we've covered before that game, because we usually round about 4 or 5 sessions per game, if that makes sense. You know, so and the coaches. Yeah, the coaches are really good around the four corners. We've sort of sat down pre-season at the start of the ACC sort of thing, and sat down as a team and gone through what should the technical corner look like for us, what should the psychological corner look like for us, what should the physical corner look like, social corner, etc. If that makes sense.
Yeah, good, mate. And I think that's it. And it's the reason I wanted to share it is. I recently took a lad on his level 2. He's not on tonight actually, but he usually is on. And the stuff that he'd done around working with parents and just sharing the things that he was doing with parents really, really helped in terms of the environment, in terms of what he was trying to do. And I suppose similar to yourself, Nick, there he's seen a massive impact on game day. So parents' concentration shifted from, yes, all right, score's always in the background, but it shifted from what the score was to actually what are we now considering. And those conversations and comments from the sideline changed. And he got a real sort of buzz about the fact that actually parents were getting involved with his work and the work that he was doing. And an example on that was he met one in the pub, and they never talked about the results of games. They were actually talking about what they were focusing on. The kids were. So I think it's really powerful, and certainly with Ronnie's theme around this, trying to understand these intended outcomes, something that would probably really help people. I don't know if you've had any sort of shared experiences, Ronnie, with things like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good, and I like the idea of like a video to help them see where it might fit in the game. I've seen a few coaches use that, and I think it's a really useful, powerful tool. I also, something that's just sprung to mind as well, is that it could be quite good really sharing some stats from top flight at times with the parents, because when you look at maybe shot conversion rates, it might not be as high as they actually think. You know, the number of shots per goal, it might not be as high as the parents think, because on Match of the Day they see goals flying in left, right, and centre from very few shots. But the statistics, especially around the top teams, they can be very surprising. And then you can pose that discussion around, well, actually, if they're full-time players and you know they're only just maybe getting 50% conversion, if that, then you know what does that mean for us? And you know, you can get the stats. I can't remember what site it is off the top of my head now, but you can get the stats across a number of different aspects of passing, finishing, defending, you know, 1v1 duels, and that can be quite useful to start to explore with the players and the parents about expectations. What are appropriate expectations? And just linking into, we had a group of players who were quite shy at one time to take a shot at goal, and especially some of the centre midfielders. And I said to them, no matter where it is on the pitch, if you think you should have a shot, have a shot. No matter, I won't criticise you. And I remember one shooting from just inside the opposition's half, and I could hear some groans from the parents to the sideline. And my message was to the players was, good attitude. If we don't shoot, we don't score. And you know, you can feel people looking and going, what's he talking about? Like, you know, really, you should maybe have a shot from there. But that was again me that really should have used the example there that you do at the coaching centres, that I should have maybe shared that beforehand, that I want to build the players' confidence to take shots at goal. So, you know, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, good stuff. Good. Guys, just because I'm conscious of time as well, has anyone got any sort of other questions for Ronnie around it? I mean, now's a chance. I'm going to share some stuff around how you might be able to contact Ronnie, and he's available. So if there is something that comes in at a later date, feel free to. I've got some quick fire questions, Ronnie, for you. Just bear with me a second, guys. If you want to drop in the chat function, please do so. Let me just take that and share that. Can you see that, Ronnie?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've started to do these. I've only recently started these, just to sort of summarise and round it off, really. And so, last few months, best thing you've read, seen, or listened to?
This is going to sound like a plug, and I don't mean it to be. But
go on.
I've been really impressed with the FA YouTube channel. So I watched the high press and the physical corner the other day, and what I like about it is that you've got a number of people on the panel coming from different perspectives of maybe the physical corner, the national coaching staff, coach educators, and it was just really good listening to their discussion and the questions that were getting fired in, and I've enjoyed that, to be honest with you.
And to be fair, you know, because it's a plug that I've got right after this slide, I think, about the YouTube channel. So it isn't, and that's not set up, by the way. Ronnie didn't know that. It's just, I'm probably similar to yourself. It's quite recent, quite new, but content-wise, I think the definitely the pandemic has forced the hand of this. That actually technology is really important, and how we get content out to people. I think with a caveat on that as well, because Ed blew me away last week with the don't look at it, and I had it on the slide last week as well. But pretty much, guys, if there is something that you're sort of struggling to find or want to sort of challenge, I mean, there's some great interviews on there as well. I watched Tim Dittmer's and Dean Henderson's I think he's got a 4-part series on his journey. Dean's from round our area, which sort of sparked my interest. But just listening to a journey of the player as well. I mean, there's some great sort of interviews on there. So I would recommend it, guys. Yeah. Best bit of advice you could give to a grassroots coach?
I would say enjoy coaching and don't put too much pressure on yourself and the players. Yeah, that's where I go with.
Good stuff. Best investment you could recommend for a grassroots coach?
I'm going to, because I was still on last week when Ed was on, and I'm going to agree with Ed about spending time with someone who is supportive, but will also challenge your views. I think some of my best development has been in the car park after games and after training, where I spent an hour with another coach or another manager discussing the game, discussing the players. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I think agree. I think we often jump to, you've got to go and do level 1, level 2, level 3, and so my other hat at the county FA is we're trying to get people on courses, but actually I sort of do the disservice to it, where I say, well, actually, is it right time? Is it right? Is there another way that you can actually go and get some learning? Does it have to be a course with the commitment that they are? So yeah, I hope Ben's not on, because he'll be telling me off for saying that. How can people get in touch with you? So if they've got any further questions, anything that you've sparked sort of some curiosity tonight, how can people get in touch with you?
My email address is ronnie.reason@thefa.com, but I'm generally quite active on Twitter. So anytime we get close to delivering a level 2 or a UEFA B license, I generally put information on there, generally video clips, so try and find video clips to support what we're working on, just to kind of highlight strategies, tactics, or technical and skill development aspects.
It's at Ronnie_Reason, isn't it? For your Twitter handle. Yeah, I've just dropped that in chat box, guys, as well. So give Ronnie a follow on job. He does put some useful stuff on there, especially for those that are sort of considering this around the technical and tactical elements of the game. I noticed that from the last, it must have been your last course that you done. I think there was a number of level 2 and B license clips on there.
Yeah, I think we all have our biases. I think mine is generally heavy technical, tactical. I think if you look at Sally's, is heavy psych and social. Yeah, we have our own little biases.
Definitely. I think that's good. And I've certainly when I started to look at this and pull people together to sort of generating what me and Ben were discussing it the other day, and what's been really pleasing about, certainly, I mean, I've said all along, this might not be for everybody. Yeah. That's okay. And Sally's and you wouldn't be for everybody, but that's also okay. And I think we get bogged down with trying to deliver a bit like this, a session where actually it hits everybody, and it's a bit like your coaching session. We know we're not going to hit everybody at your coaching session, but I think we get bogged down when we don't, and I think that's something that's helped me get my head around, is that actually it's okay if it doesn't get into everybody. Yeah, Ronnie, thanks for that.
No problem,
guys. If there's got any questions, like I say, Ronnie's email's there. He's dropped him a line on Twitter or a DM that you follow. I'm not going to say you're going to get thousands more followers off it, Ronnie, especially if it goes on our Cumberland FA website. It might get lost somewhere, but really insightful, really interesting, and I think that there's been a strand throughout pretty much every guest now, and the pleasing thing is that this question of why keeps coming up, and we're starting to question more this why. And I think if coaches have taken anything from any of this is now the 10th episode, if they've taken anything from it, it's actually that just because Ronnie sits there and says, well, that's his thoughts, or just because I've said it, or just because the mentors came on and said something similar, we still keep saying, well, why are we doing it? And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me, is that we've got to start questioning more, and question will lead to loads of different avenues and roads which we might want to go down. As Jack likes to say, the rabbit hole that we can jump down, or we can stay on and just think how we want to think. So thanks very much, Ronnie, for your time tonight.
No problem. Thank you.
I've got you away from the bedtime routine, because that's certainly why we do it this time for me. So Yeah, thanks for your time, Ronnie, and really appreciated.
No problem.
Next
See you
guest,
later, everyone.
guys, and yeah, thanks, Ronnie. Next guest. Now he's not on tonight, but he's on with us next week. It doesn't need any introductions. So Mr. Sturgis is coming on next Thursday evening. Again, I haven't put the topic on there because we're still in discussions around what I think we're looking at doing something different. So we've heard, and a lot of you have heard him talk around the DNA, how you the foundation phase in particular. It'll be foundation phase related, I think, but it might be a different angle. So just hold this space. We're currently sort of chatting around some things that we can maybe share. You might get some insight into some things in the future which Pete's looking at and working on. But as you know, he's an absolute inspiration. He's somebody that he's probably one of the best people I've ever seen work. I'm sure those that have been to his events, certainly with ourselves, will have seen, and those further afield will have. So it is definitely one not to be missed. There's the YouTube channel. So again, as Ronnie mentioned, if it's something that you want, get yourself on YouTube, have a look at the FA Learning site. It is superb. There's loads and loads of content. The nice thing is that you've pretty much got some of the leaders in the field and this type of thing. There's the psychology side of things, technical stuff. Just check it out and have a watch if you've not already, and you're looking for some time to fill. Again, just continue to spread the word. By next week, all our sessions will be up to date on our website. So there'll be pretty much most people will be, all 10 episodes will be on there. There's a few that are down at the minute, but they'll all be on there. Share again, just keep sharing if you need any support. And thank you very much for your time this evening. I hope it's been of use. Some, like I said, some will find it useful, some will have enjoyed it. Others might be starting to question things now, which is great. So thanks very much for your time tonight, guys, and we will see you all next Thursday.